If I felt acknowledged, oh, you feel sad, you feel upset about this because you don't feel like you're in control, suddenly my body feel calm. I feel yes. There's a yes. Even though we disagree, but there's that yes that calm my nervous system. If we can see fear and allow it to be, oh, that's fear. Acknowledge, oh, it's not me, but that's fear. That's when I worry about the future or paying my bills or how I face this challenge. Oh, that's fear. I can identify it. I can acknowledge it. I acknowledge you, fear. So fear can be here, can be with me, and I can listen as a friend. But I have perspective. I can see from above, I can see from below, I can come closer, I can go further, I can have a conversation with it. So how I can humanize fear instead of, oh, it's scary. I think it's moving and I feel the shift. I've been telling you I write the second book. I already started and that's happening. I also apply for, believe it or not, psychotherapies. I don't know if I'm gonna be accepted or not, but for me, I've been in the wilderness for 4 years and now I just want to test how do I go back, what do I become when I go back to the system? But the system that is more like my choice rather than going to corporations. So
Yeah,
I'm out, but I want to test myself, see how I function in the system.
I had a sneak peek at your chart. It does show you have this natural ability to transform collective energies into a harmonic concordance. This speaks to your mission of bringing balance to power structures in the world. When I look at your chart, I see fascinating alignments that are deeply connected to the work you're undertaking. Your Scorpio sun in the 11th house suggests this natural ability to transform collective energies. The shift from power over to power with feels resonant with your Libra placement, emphasizing relationship and balance. Your Capricorn ascendant in the first house, which is the house of identity and how you present yourself to the world, suggests someone who's developing personal authority while learning profound lessons about responsibility and structure. So, this combination indicates someone who is meant to embody wisdom about true sovereignty.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for reflecting back what been brewing in me. In a way, it's good to know that I'm right now in the resonance of my own path. And also because I'm writing not from my brain, I'm writing from my soul. So that's a good confirmation to know.
I haven't delved deeply into your chart, but I've noticed fascinating alignments that are deeply connected to the work you're undertaking. I was fascinated by your email, and this is why I was asking what you'd like to explore, because I was looking at different aspects of your chart. I'd like to explore the intersection of fear, power, and sovereignty. You mentioned writing about the shift from power over to power with models, and that is resonant with your Libra placements that emphasizes relationship and balance. What initially drew you to explore inner sovereignty as a topic for your second book?
I'm still in the middle of it, so I don't have wording that this is what it is, but I don't mind to explore it, to have it open because it's what's alive in me right now. Even though it's still evolving, but I love to talk about it. Maybe this is gonna help me as well as I sharing it.
Was it Starhawk who said, "Where there's fear, there's power"? Was that in your email?
Yes. That,
So when I saw that quote, I thought to myself, it represents deceptively simple insights that if we were to fully unpack, would reveal layers of psychological, spiritual, and sociological wisdom. If we explore this connection between fear and power, there's a fascination and a significance to it, especially for your work on the sovereignty. What makes Where There Is Fear, There Is Power so compelling to me is how it completely inverts our conventional relationship with fear. Many of us are conditioned to see fear as a warning to retreat, to avoid, to protect ourselves. But looking at this insight, the suggestion is that fear might actually be a compass pointing us towards our greatest potential. The implication is that what we fear most may be precisely where our untapped power resides.
I love your statement at the end. That's what I've been exploring as well, the paradox of places where we don't allow ourselves to go, things that we avoid. If we can bring more curiosities, more love and care, and see it in a very respectful way, like fear, it will give us this key to the secret about our power. What I've been contemplating that I didn't know what was the answer until I discovered this quote. Isn't it interesting that fear, Fear, is very similar to hear, Hear. And here is the word in here is ear, right? And fear, it's so close to that. And then here is here as Here. So I was like, there's something there. There's like some secret coding in here and fear. What is that?
Mm.
And I felt this is the answer. When we have fear, listen to it, hear it, because that is the door to our power.
So, what if our fears are not protecting us from danger, but from our own magnificence?
Yes, what you're saying is I've been in awe of even the opposite, like the shadow, the fear, the ones that protect us from our own power, is actually an expression of love. Like we fear because fear is an energy of protection to keep us safe. We have trauma, collective trauma, personal trauma, and the way to overcome fear or to deal with fear may be not healthy, but if we go down to the intention of fear, it is love. It's an expression of love. So if we can see it instead of, I have to avoid this, I have to overcome it. In my second book that I'm writing right now about power over, the difference between power over and power with, that the era that the last 2000 years of Pisces is about power over dominance. And with dominance and control, the way to keep that alive is through fear. Because when fear is there, you have to control. But now we are entering the Aquarius era where it requires power with, right? Water is always flowing, water is working with the container in this kind of era where right now where the fear is so dominant in the world, where uncertainty, the changes, can we just stay there and really stare and look and hear what is our fear deep down personally? Because we can fear, oh, the economy gonna change, it's like about the outside, but what is in ourselves? What is fear that's trying to protect me? And that's the thing about connections with power over. When you do a power over, we have to disconnect, we have to let go our sensitivity because it's like by force. But then with power with, we need that sensitivity because that's how we connect, that's how we move, that's how we create relationship through that sensitivities. So I wonder, maybe instead of overcoming fear or avoiding fear, listen to fear and ask, what is this fear trying to protect me? What story does it tell about who I am and what could happen? Through that, it allows us to see the illusions or the lie or the belief or the conditioning that we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves, about the world. Because through being honest with ourselves, sitting down with the question, really take a look at what's behind those fears. We can then ask a question and allow us to ask the question, if I weren't afraid, what might I do differently? What strength, truth, and desire is hidden beneath this fear? I love those questions and I love to stay with that. Even though right now I have less fear, I've been putting myself in a lot of facing my fear. Those questions really make me curious. But what else?
This is the reframing of fear as directional, as distinct from preventative. That creates an entirely different relationship with uncomfortable emotions, because we start to see the shadow as a power source. This concept connects deeply with shadow work. What we resist or deny doesn't disappear, it goes underground, which then takes significant energy to suppress it. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, suggested that much of our vital life force gets trapped in the shadow. The things we fear acknowledging about ourselves, our anger, our desire, our ambition, our voice, represent enormous reservoirs of untapped power. How do you think your chapter exploring the relationship between reclaiming the shadow and reclaiming sovereignty might explore it? Could the journey from power over to power with require a kind of shadow integration at both the personal and collective level?
Yes, thank you. That's very interesting questions. I think power over doesn't really care about who's under it, as long as I'm in power with. And I get this idea from the modern philosopher that talk about what is power. He has two different ideas about power by coercion, which is power by force, and power by mediation. He said that power by force is unsustainable. You can force, but because of that force, there's a resistance. Like there was a point where it's not sustainable. We experience it right now in the world. Power by mediation, where I translate it into power with, is you have to connect with all the parts, right? If it's in the world is like your organization or within yourself, it's more important of what I'm interested in, looking at all parts of me. In me, there is a need to have control, to feel secure. But at the same time, there's a need to express myself, to have freedom, to grow. Those two things sometimes the opposite of one another. If I go to one, the other one will be neglected. At the end of the day, they will fight back, like, hey, I'm here. So I need to understand all these parts of me. What are they need so that I can see and I can bring them back into the sheer intention. Like the idea of seeing fear as, oh, this is actually me who cares about me. It's my expression of love that maybe not useful, but I appreciate that intention. It's interesting because yesterday I also saw a short video by the Zen monk, did Han, I forgot his name. He passed away, but he said something, look at your fear, because your fear is yourself. I love that idea of seeing your fear is yourself. So if you neglect it, if you try to overcome it, if you fight it, if you avoid it, you're avoiding yourself.
The exploration of fear and power connects to the collective shadows around authority that are now surfacing globally. Fear, in mythological terms, fear manifests as the threshold guardian. Joseph Campbell described in How the Hero's Journey includes facing guardians at the threshold of transformation. These frightening figures didn't exist to prevent passage, but to ensure only the truly committed proceeded. They test readiness. When we avoid what we fear, we often avoid our most important initiations. Seeking sovereignty and recognizing fear as a threshold guardian, distinct from an obstacle, can change our relationship with resistance. This mythological framing can elevate a discussion from personal psychology to archetypical significance. There is a systemic dimension to all of this. At a societal level, this principle reveals why systems of oppression work so diligently to instill fear. Domination systems, power over, intuitively understand that fear and power are connected. By generating fear in marginalized groups, these systems effectively suppress the very power they're afraid might challenge them. It's the places we're most discouraged from going through societal conditioning, taboo, explicit prohibition, but these contain the keys to liberation. When we connect with our inner sovereignty, we can invite a broader social liberation. When we reclaim that power at the individual level, that can create ripple effects that contribute to collective transformation. This systemic perspective can help people to see that their inner sovereignty can work as contributing to something larger than themselves.
I totally agree with you. That's why I thought this is an important message, why I want to write this book. We are conditioned to look outside. The challenge outside, the problem is on the people, the system, the economy, the problem is on the other, not in ourselves. By taking that ownership and responsibilities, hey, there's something in me that's fighting too. If I want a peace out there, I need to work on peace inside. Going to that fear and self, this territory where there's no boss, there's nobody, you putting something in there through your belief, through the conditioning. So here are the territory or the space where you can make change that is beyond what is outside by going in, because right now we only know going out. You gain information through the outside world, you get information through the internet, you get information through the knowledge sharing outside, you get information through finding guru, finding experts, and learn from the expert from the book outside. But there's something inside ourselves that's connected because we all energy. So it's not like from material perspective, physical perspective, I see the book, I see there's an expert there. But if we have this ability to return and connect with all parts of ourselves, we stop fighting, we're able to listen better. Of the wisdom is useful to come from outside. I think there's a lot of social learning that we can learn from peers, from our communities, but have your own way. Experience is personal. As we claim that, last time we talked about in the sovereignty related to intention and attention. That's a fabric of our sovereignty. When we know what is inside and get things from the inside, then we're not so easily controlled by where should we put attention, because that doesn't really fill me up. That doesn't matter to me. What is I value the most? And with that intention and attention, that's where times work. Time doesn't work in a clock. The way we use time and space is through our intention and attention. For someone as a sovereign being, that is your fabric, that is your ingredients, materials to really make an impact in the world, because your focus create your experience, and your experience create your behavior, create your mood, create the state that attracts or resonate with similar frequencies. If you have a strong frequency, it will affect the energy around you. Therefore, it's important we stop the chaos outside. Start with attending the chaos within. That's the power and the fear and the things we need to pay attention to.
You're touching on something important. You mentioned love, which I see is instrumental in bringing coherence out of chaos. But there's something else here you made me think about, was the alchemical transformation. The suggestion I'm putting forward is, how can fear itself be transformed? When I bring fear to a standstill, rather than trying to conquer it or eliminate it, I want to transmute fear into power through the alchemical act of facing it directly, because the energy bound up in fear becomes available as a creative force when we move toward rather than away from what frightens us. How can we articulate this alchemical process, and what specific practices can facilitate this transformation from fear to power without falling into simplistic narratives like face your fears? I think there's an alchemical framing that offers a more nuanced alternative to both fear avoidance and fear conquest narratives.
That's a very good question. And I believe the answer is so many different answers. And maybe we can, I love to hear what's your thought, like how. I can share mine as well. I see fear as, this is what I believe in my work. The biggest yearning of every human is to be seen and acknowledged. I shared this in my TEDx talk when I had argument with my husband. I thought it's I want to be right. No, it's like this. No, you're wrong. But I seen this often with my children and my husband and me as well. If I felt acknowledged, oh, you feel sad, you feel upset about this because you don't feel like you're in control. Suddenly, my body feel calm. I feel yes. There's a yes. Even though we disagree, but there's that yes that calm my nervous system. If we can see fear and allow it to be, oh, that's fear. Acknowledge, oh, it's not me, but that's fear. That's when I worry about the future or paying my bills or how I face this challenge. Oh, that's fear. I can identify it. I can acknowledge it. I acknowledge you, fear. So fear can be here, can be with me, and I can listen as a friend. But I have perspective. I can see from above, I can see from below, I can come closer, I can go further, I can have conversation with it. So how I can humanize fear instead of, oh, it's scary. Can I see it when I coach my clients? Most of those fears are not their wise adult self, but the wounded child that was maybe abandoned when they're a child. The trauma, the frozen trauma in them. If we can bring that curiosities and hey, wait a second, where did this come from? Is it new, or where was the first time I experienced this kind of fear? Even though it's about this, but like when is this familiar? Like how old I am. So then I can say, oh, this is me in that age that's still looking for acknowledgement. They're still looking for safety. If I can see it and have a dialogue, the power with, I can say, oh, it's okay. I'm here. I'm with you. So if we can change, because what happened with fear in the power over, we feel discomfort, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration. What we start to do, because we don't want to be with our discomfort, our brain, analytical mind creates story. Oh, so and so, my boss is like very bad person, or he's not understanding. He's so selfish. So it's about the other. And the power with inviting us to no, it's not about them. It's the opportunity they is used by life to show your own projection. So if you look at, oh, this is me afraid of not being seen, can I be with that child that is so afraid and love it back? Because the invitation, even in sovereignty, in the power, is how can we return to loving ourselves unconditionally? So, hey, yes, of course, I have this, I have that, I'm not perfect. But those give us opportunity to be with, to acknowledge, to make whatever part of us feel seen and understood. I think all the anger, frustration, sadness, disappointment, fear that we feel, it's more like, hey, look at me. I'm here. I'm worthy too. Can I be with it?
This is seeing fear as a gift and the wisdom that it contains when we are able to listen deeply, because we can distinguish between fear that's protective versus fear that is keeping us from our power. If fear points to power, does joy also have a relationship with power? How might different emotions serve as guides to different aspects of our sovereignty? The journey from fear to power, I don't see it as a linear journey. I see there are possibly patterns or stages which people move through as they reclaim their sovereignty. Some key insights is to have a practice or an ecology of practices, spiritual practices, not pie in the sky, but real grounded spiritual practices that can help transform your relationship with fear and power. As we move towards a world with more power with rather than power over dynamics, what hope do we have for this transition to be possible? If we give it a spiritual framing, we can elevate the conversation from psychological techniques to sacred practice. The integration of that insight, where there is fear, there is power, transforms how we approach everything from personal development to social change to spiritual practice. The suggestion is what we've been running away from might actually be what we've been seeking. A chapter on this may be a reshaping of a perspective that a person's relationship is not just with fear, but with power and love itself. The missing link in our collective shift from power over to power with is, can we learn to move towards rather than away from what frightens us most about our own potential?
I love what you're saying because I've been noticing it in myself. And I felt this is very important point for anyone who experiencing this spiritual journey and spiritual growth. I know this because I was one of them too, as a high achiever. If you move towards your career or success, what happened even in the organizations these days, in corporations and the career path, what really keep you thrive and survive is a sense of lacking. So feeling that scarcity, lacking, I don't have enough, I need to excel myself into different positions, I'm not there yet. Those things have been pushing us forward to growth, which is dynamic of power over. I don't have this. Work harder, strive for more, right? Find a different strategy and a more efficient way to do something. Now, what happened is a lot of people right now experience burnout. I will start asking questions. Why is it inside me empty? What does it mean? Why don't I feel fulfilled? They start finding or getting in touch with themselves, with all parts of them, including the spiritual part. And then what happened is there's this fear that I used to experience where, oh no, what should I do? If I don't motivate me with things that I didn't have, how can I move forward? Am I going to just be sluggish and doing nothing? And they afraid to let go their own fear. They're afraid to let go the part of them because it's been useful. It's been pushing them forward. At this time, how can we be kind to that feeling, appreciate, yes, of course, fear and sense of scarcity has been helping me moving forward because those are pushing me, motivate me to do more, to do better, to be the best. Now it's a different paradigm. I think this is where we mostly stuck. We stuck to letting go and all things that help us move forward, and to be able to see that require this, oh, I need to unlearn what is my conditioning. I need to be honest with myself. What is fear? And my relationship with fear, because my relationship with fear was great because it pushed me, right? There's benefits, but because we are changing and the world is changing and it's not sustainable anymore.
When I look at your astrological signature and the themes of your work, there are some profound connections that feel particularly relevant as Pluto traverses Aquarius. This transit is radically reshaping our collective understanding of power, group dynamics, and social structures. These are themes that resonate deeply with your exploration of sovereignty. You've got Pluto in Libra in the 10th house. That shows someone who is destined to transform how we approach relationship dynamics within authority structures. Now, as Pluto moves through Aquarius, what we're witnessing is a fundamental revolution in how power functions in groups and communities. This transit is dismantling hierarchical structures that have dominated for centuries. And people have said to me, I don't see any evidence of that. It's not going to happen instantly. Water doesn't go from cold to hot. It goes from cold to hot by degree. It's the same thing with these shifts. These collective transformations are going to be informing our concept of power with versus power over. In your chart, you have Saturn in Gemini, which suggests you've got a particular insight into how language and communication patterns either reinforce or dismantle power structures. This could be a fascinating angle for you to explore. You've got a natural capacity to work with shadow material. One thing I find fascinating about where there is fear, there is power concept, is how it suggests that what we're most afraid of contains our greatest untapped potential. The other thing I was just seeing as you were speaking, I was listening to you, by the way, is your ascendant, according to the time you give me, is Capricorn, with a very significant first house placement, which suggests that sovereignty isn't an intellectual concept for you, but something to be physically embodied. As Pluto transforms Aquarius, what we're seeing is increased focus on embodied wisdom versus purely mental constructs. This question connects to your first house, your Jupiter in Capricorn, which is expansion, Jupiter, through embodied wisdom and practical application. There's something here about your evolutionary journey which involves developing personal authority that doesn't rely on external validation. There's something profound here about how power with models might fulfill our deeper evolutionary purpose as humans.
Thank you for bringing that up, for giving me some confirmations. I believe in order to write a book or share my message, I need to embody it first. This is my second language, and I don't feel fluent enough to express. So I need to express it from different places, not just from my head.
That's the alchemy of surrender in your chart, your Mars-Uranus conjunction in Libra. What that suggests is a revolutionary approach to how you direct your energy and assert your will. So there's something powerful here about how power with often requires a paradoxical surrender that actually enhances as distinct from diminishing your agency.
What you're saying also, I think for the idea of power with, there's so much evidence, not in the man-made structure, but in nature. Like the earth doesn't do power over, they do power with. It's not like you have to, as a species, okay, we work in harmony, we work for balance. You mentioned about surrendering is a paradox, like power and surrendering. How does it connect? The idea of power with is when I do power with part of myself or with others, I need to create an open space. Let's say I want this to be a certain thing, but I need to be open for the other to come with their ideas. For example, with my children, I want them to take the garbage today, but they forgot. I have to go back that again instead of, no, it's now. Once in a while, I do that. But it's the ideas of that's how we can live in emergence, because everything evolving. And by keeping both of this is my desire, this is my will, this is what I want, but I'm also open in conversation in how life bring things, because at the end of the day, what happened in nature or even in conversation is a co-creation. We not create in isolation like what we believe in power over, where I have to do something, if not, nothing gonna get done. Maybe there's a certain truth in that for a certain degree, but at the end of the day, we are so supported. Everything's working and connected. I just saw this guy on YouTube. He's a geophysicist that connect the solar flare, the activity of the sun with the activity of the earth. It's connected with the universe. There are things that are so connected with one another we haven't figured it out yet, but that's how life works. It's interconnectedness. Power with, it doesn't mean we don't have power. We have power and we have a choice. We can own what ours and be open with that co-creation, collaborations with what will happen, because at the end of the day, that also give us kind of a clue where we're going. Just today, when you mentioned astrology, that kind of gave me confirmation. And yes, I'm in the right path. That's how it's beautiful, because we allow others to be themselves, to be great in what they do, and to be open to receive. One part of power over is living in scarcity is allowing us not to be open to receive. That's another shadow as well. So power with allowing us to open to receive as well.
This is a part of the alchemy of surrender, I see. Your current Saturn is the planet of limitations. It's the architect of learning. It's transiting in Pisces. approaching your north node. Your north node is your growth edges, where you're walking towards. That indicates some important lessons about boundaries and structures within collective energy fields. These lessons could profoundly influence your chapter. And as Pluto moves through Aquarius, which is 2023, 2044, we're witnessing the death and rebirth of how human beings organize collectively. Your Scorpio sun understands that true transformation requires a death of old forms before new ones can emerge. There are processes that need to die, both individually and collectively, for us to fully embody power with a different approach and new forms of connection and collaboration that might be trying to emerge through this whole dissolution. Your current Mercury transit in Aries is activating your Chiron, which is the wounded healer. It's potentially bringing these healing insights around assertiveness without domination that could be valuable additions to your chapter. The deeper dimensions of the shift from power over to power with models is so relevant in our current global movement. So you're onto something really big here, because we're looking at so many traditional power structures being questioned and reimagined. We're living through this profound transformation in how power functions in communities and social systems. Hierarchical structures that have dominated for centuries are being questioned and dismantled in many contexts. Do you have insights into how communication patterns either reinforce or dismantle power structures? This is another fascinating angle for you to explore. The other thing I wanted to say that came to mind was about embodied sovereignty. Many philosophical and spiritual traditions suggest that sovereignty isn't an intellectual concept, but it's something to be physically embodied, as you spoke about. In our increasingly virtual world, embodied wisdom seems to be gaining a renewed appreciation. And there's something profound to consider about how power with models might actually be fulfilling a much deeper evolutionary purpose for us as human beings. The timing of your book feels very significant to me, as if you are responding to a collective need for new paradigms, new frameworks around power and sovereignty.
Thank you, Peter. I felt guided. The pictures in my mind is more like I'm surfing waves, the waves of the world. I wrote a book, The Heart Space, that you can see here.
It's a great book, by the way.
Thank you. Which is that space that we need to be here right now through the heart, to be gentle and open with so many different paradoxes and contradictions. And I believe I'm riding a wave of what's changing right now. And I'm there to express my perspective, which is make it easy, as like I'm not the one that have to, it's more, hey, I'm here. I'm just following the waves, the current, being guided. It's a power width as a right. Maybe I'm the one who write. Of course, there's also AI right now that I can bounce idea. There are also a lot of other stuff that happening with synchronicities, like our talk this time. Someone who emailed me and give me this material said, hey, with list of quotes that speak to me. So things are working for us and through us. And I believe that as we more open, willing to listen more, to let go paradigm of power over, and even like power over ourselves, like I have to be this way or that way, we start to open, be able to listen and receive those little things that happen around us and for us, and find out, oh, I'm in the right direction, because ideas come here, it's evolving, it's creating something as I move forward and follow the clue and feel and sense, not just with my intellectual, of course, I have brain, I have intellectual ideas, analyticals, but also this sensing that sometimes these intuitions, or even in the heart space, beyond words, it's that feeling that you can feel that is sometimes undescribable, until you slow down and suddenly words come out. But there is a space beyond and before words, before thoughts. If we allow ourselves in this era of control, information that come in and out, to slow down and pause and be okay with that feeling, fear or anxieties or overwhelm. That's how we learn to, oh, that's not dangerous at all. That doesn't hurt me. Or if I'm okay with fear a little bit, it doesn't hurt me. Or if I'm okay a little bit with feeling anxious, oh, it doesn't hurt me. If I slow down a little bit, oh, it's actually enjoyable. Power with invite us to move and be driven by joy, by love, by peace, by curiosity, by playfulness, instead of just by fear. It's a nice way of living, of enjoying our experience, our life, our connections, our relationship. It's a nice way also to learn, because if we go out and walk in nature and be present, there are so many insights that come in that's beyond books or anything like that, very specific for you, for the moment you're in. I hope we can allow that more in our lives, because that's how we make change in the world, is through connecting with ourselves. And that connection is through pausing, through silence, through connecting with place inside of ourselves beyond and before words, before thoughts. I think fear allows us to do that. Hey, it's here. Okay, let me stay with that. It's then when fear is actually not frightening at all. It's just what it is. Then it's allow us to get into beyond it, which is space beyond or before thoughts.
It's interesting you say that, because Saturn is moved into Aries, and it directly affects your natal chart, your natal sun sign, Scorpio. It is calling for a slowing down. It's calling to quieten the mind. When you're slow, it's much easier to speed up. When you're fast, it's much harder to slow down. Sometimes when we go into nature and we look through the windshield rather than in the rear view, you get a much bigger view. And if you allow that to seep into your sinews, that organizes and propels and enables different insights to come in and different perceptions. When you're crowded out, when you have all these noises of concern or are preoccupied, as distinct from being free occupied, you don't create the space for those things to come in. 99% of life is maintenance, and we've got to do all these things. We've got to get up in the morning and brush our teeth and have breakfast and pay the bills. So we've got to do all of that. But can we push back the space to stop and look at things from a different perspective? This is where you've got to turn your observer on, so you're not engaged directly with fear or with all of these emotions, because all they are telling you is that, hey, there are some resources that you need here. If you're experiencing anger, what resources are you lacking? If you have fear, what resources are you lacking? Rather than engaging directly with it, you turn your observer on and it's, oh, okay, so I see that's fear. I bring that to a standstill and I move towards it, because locked inside of it are all these creative juices rather than trying to suppress it. What you've highlighted about slowing down, and this is directly what is happening in this Saturn in Aries transit. Aries wants to start things. It's the fire starter. It's like when a seed gets planted, that's the impulse, whereas Taurus will mineralize and materialize it and give it body. One of my hobbies is photography, and I love landscapes. I love getting out there. One of the things I do is location scouting when I'm traveling. If I see an image, it might be mountains, it might be lakes. If I get too close to it, I only get so much in the frame. But when I take a step back, oh, the frame widens and I get more in. So the heart of the matter can usually be seen from afar, not when you're close in. Another thing you sparked is about distributed authority models. I'm thinking about this new time we're in, and can there be alternative governance models that inform power with? These emerging governance structures I see that can come in now we can approach them in a very different way, a different way of distributing authority and making decisions collectively and honoring individual sovereignty while serving group needs. This is where you have consent over consensus as an example. So with sociocracy, which is sometimes called dynamic governance, that offers a sophisticated approach to power with through its fundamental principles and practices. It operates through consent-based decision-making rather than consensus or majority rule. Instead of asking, does everybody agree, consensus, or do most people agree, majority? That's what sociocracy asks. Does anyone have a paramount objection to this proposal? There's a subtle shift that acknowledges each person's sovereignty while preventing individual preferences from blocking group progress. Then you have things like holocracy, where you're distributing authority through roles. The power resides in roles and not in people. I was looking at the Iroquois, the Indigenous council models. They have this deliberative wisdom where their governance systems, and I appreciate they're diverse across many different cultures, but they share principles that profoundly embody power with approaches. Many Indigenous councils utilize thoughtful deliberation where all voices are heard before decisions are made. The Iroquois Confederacy practices extensive consultation between councils that represent different perspectives. They call it their seventh generation principle that considers how decisions will impact those living 7 generations in the future. That creates an incredible accountability that transcends immediate power interests. So my question is, how might these longer time horizons and deliberative practices transform our relationship to power? What can contemporary organizations learn from Indigenous traditions about balancing individual voice with collective well-being?
That's a great question. I felt like this is a question that we need to carry. And I totally agree with you that there is already model, especially from Indigenous communities, about power with. I want to bring up a couple of things. I felt like this visions has to be carried by many, and we need to have discussions and also how it works. I've been experimenting, not in a big community, but a small community where the power is distributed. But a couple of things I want to bring out. First of all, with this power over paradigms, what kind of make us having this like very narrow-minded way of power or thinking or doing or distributing power is a focus on the outcome in organization, for example, corporations. When we meet, we already have the outcome. We want the outcome. So we're not here to listen to one another. We're here to make sure the outcome is executed. That's something different with Indigenous communities because they don't meet for the outcome. They meet to listen to one another. They meet to exchange idea. That's the spirit of it. So meaning that they can meet so many different days, like days after days. They don't feel, oh, we have to be hurry, right? Because they're there to be present and to listen and to receive insights that come from the conversations. We need to be comfortable with, okay, you know what? We're going to be a little bit open. We'll see the outcome, but we want to hear from you. We want to know more. I found it's so important to carry or to train ourselves to be in the process rather than the outcome. Then we listen more.
To build on what you were saying is the Indigenous perspective that power comes with responsibility to future generations, I see adds a profound dimension to the inner sovereignty conversation. What principles can we cultivate that redefine power? Is it about transparency, where information is accessible to everybody and prevents power accumulation through information hoarding? Is it distributed sensing, that the perception of issues just happen throughout the system, not just at the top? Is it integration rather than compromise? Is it purpose as authority? How might these principles help us distinguish between superficial power with language and genuine distributed authority? And what practices can we cultivate with Aquarian models that individuals can adapt even within conventional hierarchical structures? Some of these structures with the new models could offer a concrete rebuttal to the common belief that hierarchical power over systems are more efficient or effective.
I love your questions. I don't think I can answer it, but I can bring what I love to focus on is the fundamental pattern. The reason why we came to where we are right now is we are in a society where it becomes so big. Like the power system becomes so high and so big, so untouchable by the bottom. The bottom doesn't really know who's in the top. There's no personal connection at all. Even in a small organization, like in a 500 or 1,000 people in one organization, the CEO never know the Joe, Karen, they never have that experience. So everyone in there is anonymous. The thing is, and that's what happened with media too, right? You can criticize someone and bad mouthing someone because you don't know them. But if you have a neighbor and you know them, you know their kids, you have dinner once in a while, you will restrain yourself to say bad things in public about them. We are too big, and this is what we do right now. Everyone is by numbers. Like you don't have names. I know you by numbers or by code, right? By category. And it doesn't work in power with, because power with require knowing, require connection. That's why the tribe, the communities like Koji in South America, all the indigenous, it's by communities, elders. And I read a book, one South American tribe. Every day, John or Jane will come to the elder meeting at night and talk about their personal problems. So instead of going therapy, they go to the communities. It's so personal, like it knows that connections. And I think that system that we have right now, I don't know how it's gonna work, but it will get breaking out and getting smaller so that those community tribes attract people with similar resonance. There's another one, similar resonance, or maybe this one slightly different. Those two will have another connection that they know each other with another level. But like those leaders know exactly who they are, who their kids, the families, and only through those we able to build that connections. So the power that we have right now is too big that the top doesn't know the bottom. It had to spread. There's pockets of those self-governed where people getting together through the same resonance, through shared intention, through shared visions. Because we know, even with the internet, right? I know I have a lot of friends right now that I never met before, but we get together regularly because we have that shared intention, shared purpose. And I think that's how we can build those from shared something, because it's personal and transpersonal. I know you, but I'm so connected with you because we have shared vision. Whatever challenge we have personally, we need to have that connection with that shared intention, shared vision, shared value. I think the world is fragmented right now, blue, red, because they feel connected. They don't know each other because the shared value they have, right? And with that share, we feel like we know each other. Yeah, I feel like I have something in common with you. The next, I don't know how many, maybe 100 years. You never know. Going back to the tribe and communities, like smaller communities.
I think it'll be sooner than that. This transit of Pluto and Aquarius, I think things are going to shake up in the next decade. It's incremental at the moment, and it doesn't seem like much is happening, but it's like winter. You don't think that spring is under the ground, but it is, and it's waiting ignition. Nothing's really happening. But those green shoots are happening underneath, and eventually you get the ignition of spring. Another thing that comes up for me is the shadow side of any new model. Any alternative approach will have shadow aspects that can inform how this subject is explored. Without careful implementation, any model can create a tyranny of structural powerlessness, if that's such a word, where unofficial power dynamics become more problematic because they're unacknowledged. They can generate a process overhead that exhausts participants or creates new specialized knowledge that becomes its own form of power currency. There's a nuanced perspective in this to recognize that power with isn't a perfect solution, but it's an ongoing practice that requires an awakened awareness and potential course corrections. Power with, to me, isn't just a philosophical idea. From this discussion, what I'm gleaning is it's a practical approach that can be systemized and scaled, but they all require significant shifts in how we think about and relate to power. In terms of these external governance structures, we have to look at how they mirror internal psychological processes. Is there an inner sociocracy or inner council that integrates different aspects of self without domination or repression? There's a connection here between external governance structures and internal psychological integration. I think this could be a very profound contribution.
Thank you. Yes, I totally agree with you. And returning to what you're saying about embodied sovereignty, if we can embody power with, then it's easier. I agree with you with everything has shadow, and power with allow you to be sensitive or sensible with it. Having dialogue, always having a dialogue with that, even the shadow before it's getting ignored. So in a way, if we know in ourselves, having inner sovereignty that we are sovereign being and have power within part of us, it's natural for us to go out and build community with that similar resonance of power with. But if we think, okay, so we're not working on power with yet, and we like, let's create something structure outside with power with, we're gonna have a lot of resistance and discord because we're not aligned with that yet. Because the power over, we've been conditioned, we've been living that for thousands of years. So it's really hard to notice it or to be aware of it if we're living in it. So it's, can we start with ourselves as we working towards others, toward community, toward the world. So it's in and out, like inside and outside work, inner work and outer work. For me, my message come from inner first. That's the easy way. You can do while you sleep, you can do in the shower, you can do by yourself, you do with others. For me, the easier, most approachable aspects that we can work on as the world is changing.
Beautiful. Do you have any passing words, and where can people find out more about you?
We talk about fear and power, and I just want to remind the listeners that we are so powerful, we can scare ourselves with our fear that we made up. That's already shows how powerful we are. So if we can even scare ourselves with our power, transforming into fear, imagine how powerful we are. You can find me on my website, christinesamuel.ca or innerworkmatters.com. You can connect with me through LinkedIn, Instagram, Christine Samuel here. I also have newsletter that I send bi-weekly, a small posts that remind us of our power, remind everyone to slow down and bring more self-awareness, peace, love, compassion, and understanding.
Christine, it's been an honor and a privilege to have this dialogue with you. Thank you for sparking my interest. It's been fascinating. And your book and what you will be organized and propelled to write will flow from your heart as you bring more essence of who you are. Your inner brilliance will shine, and you will inspire and liberate other people to show up fully as they are.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for these conversations. I always enjoy coming into your podcast and having connection with you. Oh, I still want to remind listeners, I have the book already. Peter read it as well. The Heart Space, Living with Grace and Ease in an Era of Uncertainty. The first book inspired me to write the second because by living in your heart space, you'll find this power in the coming in. Thank you.